among a number of challenging sayings, one of Yogananda's most advanced disciples, Sister Gyanamata, gave us this particular phrase. She said, this was written in a letter to a disciple. She said, "The things that happen to us do not matter. What we become through them does matter, or does." And if you unpack that a bit, I mean, it requires some pretty serious unpacking. There's a lot packed into it. There are vistas of insight and implication to that. So first off, the things that happen to us do not matter. Well, here we are. We have wildfires burning all over California in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of an election year, in the middle of economic crisis or disaster, depending on which field you're working in or, your own particular situation. I mean, there's a lot going on right now, and you could say, well, it seems like the things that happen to us jolly well do matter. You lose your leg in an accident, or, your loved one dies, or your retirement pension goes up in smoke because somebody made a bad or criminal decision. I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen that we could very easily and very naturally term bad, or that it really does matter because it really does have an implication for us that is serious. All of that goes without saying on one level, and yet if we go down a level, go deeper into this, what she's saying, or what she's implying for us, is that there is this law of karma, and we just don't believe in it here in the West. Never mind that Christ put it right out there in the Bible, as you sow, so shall you reap. I mean, it's not hidden. I mean, the implications of it may not be super obvious to us, but why? How does that law of karma apply? The things that happen to us do not matter because they were going to happen anyway. That was karma that had been set in motion from a long time ago. To us, it just seems like really, really bad luck, or really, really bad whatever. And if we think of it more deeply, though, we just realize, well, I was going to have to go through it anyway, so why not go through it now? Why not deal with it now? But then if we go also under the second half of the saying, what we become through those things that happen to us, that does matter. Because we have then the choice. We have to learn to exercise that choice. That part is up to us. But when she says the things that happen to us do not matter because they were going to happen anyway, what she's saying is we all came here to learn. We all came here to do something productive by way of exploring our divine potential. And so knowing that, then we become able to and more willing to accept the things that happen to us. Yogananda had another way of saying it. He said, what comes of itself, let it come. Don't fight it. It's futile to try to resist something that is going to happen or something that just happened. Let it come, but then learn to look inside and choose the response that you make. We watched this time and again with Swami Kriyananda, that he would have some enormous health crisis or some very, very difficult challenge, some big financial challenge would come. We fought years of lawsuits in the court, and financially, the entire project of Ananda, the community, the movement, was all threatened by that. I mean, it was at risk. And for Swami, the question was only, what can we do now? What can I do today? What can I do right now? He didn't get lost in the endless endless possible ramifications, because that just is drama that is beyond our control. Meanwhile, today, right here and now, it's as if we're walking on a tightrope. And on one side may be a huge chasm, and on the other side may be a huge chasm, representing perhaps the past on the left side and the future on the right-hand side. But meanwhile, where we're walking is right here and right now. I had a good object lesson in this for many years in the construction trades. Now, I was not always walking on the tops of walls or walking on the tops of roofs, but a fair amount of the time, when you stand up a wall, chances are you're going to have to go up on top of that wall to either add the next floor or add the roof or whatever. So it means you have to go up there. Well, walking on the top of a wall, which could be this wide or could be this wide, I'm holding my hands, 3.5 inches or 5.5 inches, which is roughly translates to 100 centimeters, or 10 centimeters, or maybe 12 or 15 centimeters, that wide. You could be quite a ways up in the air. In fact, that would be just to the floor that's beneath you. But off to the side of the building, there may be a fairly steep hill, etc. You could be quite high off the ground. And I remember this one experience. I was helping to build Crystal Hermitage at Ananda Village, where Swami Kriyananda had his home, and it became a much larger facility. But I remember I was walking on top of a wall or a beam, which was quite narrow, and there was something sticking up from it. I think that someone had driven a nail to hold something briefly, but that, whatever it was there. It wasn't something I was going to perforate my foot with, but it caught my foot, and I stumbled. And it was so interesting to watch what happened on the inside, because I didn't fall. I stumbled, and then it was like this centeredness just took over, and it was like, no, I'm going to put my foot on the wall, on the beam, and I'm going to continue. I may wobble for a moment, but I am not going to fall off of this thing or even onto this thing. And I didn't. But I learned from walking on walls that you have to stay in your spine. So you have to actually find your spine. I mean, it sounds sort of silly. I mean, how do you ever lose your spine? Well, it's actually quite easy to lose your spine. That we have the saying in English, I was beside myself. Usually means I was very upset, I was very angry, or I was, somehow off of my center, which is to say I was over here. I was beside myself. Here's me and here's myself, and I was not there. I was not integrated. And that requirement is even more crucial when the times and the situations are very challenging, because the opportunity to grow is enormous. The potential, a recent video that I made is under the title, There are no obstacles, only opportunities. This is a saying of Yogananda's. And again, it sort of harkens back to what Sister Gyanamata is saying. The things that happen to us do not matter. What we become through them does, because what happens to us may look like an obstacle, may look like an insurmountable obstacle. And yet, if we're willing to stay in the moment and with faith and with love and with devotion, ask God, What do you have in mind now? What can I do now? How can I serve, help? How can I move this process forward? You know, having wildfires going in California means the air quality is lousy, and which means that we can't go outside as much, or going outside can have health implications. Well, going outside in a pandemic can have health implications also if you get into a crowd of people and, you know, everybody's not masked up, etc. So, I mean, one's movements become narrowed. Well, that's an obstacle to doing certain things, to accomplishing certain things outside. It's also an opportunity. Because if we learn to look inside, if we learn to explore, if we learn to learn something new, then the possibilities are endless. And so I say this, I share this thought, the things that happen to us do not matter, what we become through them, not to throw up to people who have just lost something. Perhaps they've lost their home in one of these fires. Certainly hundreds and thousands of people have lost their homes. I know for me, that would challenge my equanimity. If this house, if this apartment community were reduced to ashes, yeah, that would be challenging. But it would also be, on some level, because I would define it this way, it would have to be an opportunity. And so all of us, let us look at whatever situation we're in. It may be that nothing is wrong in your life at all. It's just beautiful and blissful. Even that is an opportunity. Even that is a call to action to, again, look to your highest potential and reach for that highest potential. Step by step by step. Take your devotion deeper, learn to live more in the love of God, for the love of God, and know that underneath all of this drama is God's dream. We are living in God's dream. And sooner or later we wake from that dream, just as sooner or later we wake up from whatever dreams we might have had overnight. And so enjoy the dream to the extent that you can do so, or at least face the dream calmly and with the faith that it's ultimately God's dream anyway. And if we can learn something, if we can grow in some way, then we have benefited from the dream as much as we can do. But know that ultimately we're in God's hands, and we wouldn't choose to be anywhere else anyway. Om.